You're listening to Atlanta Baseball Talk, your weekly podcast for all things Atlanta Braves.
Welcome to show number 306. Today is Sunday, July 12th, 2015, and my name is Steve. I am joined by both Hamilton and Curtis. And guys, good week. Sorry. All right, so in tonight's show, we'll talk about Folty's move to the bullpen, and now back to AAA, the 12-game stretch over the next 2 weeks, and Shelby's All-Star selection. But first, guys, the awful season-ending Jason Grilli injury Saturday in Colorado. Ham, what are your sort of initial reactions to it?
That's awful. I feel bad for him. I think if we were going to have any chance of competing, we would need to find someone to produce at his level, not taking the personal injury away from this. But I think there's a slight chance we can find that, but I don't think we will. And I also, at the end of the day, don't think it really matters, because I think that the Braves are out of it, and it was not going to have that big an impact on the season. Grilli's not a guy that was going to make or break this season for the Braves, or was making or breaking. I mean, you need a reliable closer to be a contender, certainly, but the Braves had more problems than just Grilli. So.
Well, it's interesting too that, I mean, this happened right in the ninth inning yesterday, but the season felt like was careening off the tracks all week, before the injury. Curtis, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I cannot imagine that there could be a worse series. And Freddie's comments, which I hadn't really put together, but he compared it to when Hudson got hurt, that it's just kind of one of those grim things on the field that's almost fluky, but that the impact is going to be much bigger than just his productivity on the field, which is obviously big too. I think I said a couple of weeks ago that he was bad, which I really misspoke. I think maybe I meant to say he was shaky and he made me nervous. He has not been bad at all. He's been pretty stable. And you saw some comments from some guys that, like, what an impact he had on them as young pitchers in the dugout, how he was really always upbeat, how he came to everyone's defense with the press when the bullpen was struggling so much, and how he really stuck up for guys and how they really appreciated that type of stuff. And I know he's going to travel with the team, but it's an impact for the team, both on the field and off, that I think that we'll feel for a while. And you could tell. I mean, I almost like today's game was just they were so hungover from still thinking about that they were just wet noodles out there.
Shell-shocked.
Yeah, and it was gruesome stuff. Just the pain that you could see him in.
Yeah.
Just added to what an emotional situation it was. Because you're right. I mean, Grilli's so into it. I mean, how great was really every save that he notched, and his fist pumping, yelling, I mean, he was just so into it, right? Obviously a great leader on the team. So it's terrible for him personally. Like you said, you could see it on their faces today. I mean, this thing is a huge gut punch. As in terms of the long-term effects for the team, if the season was becoming a bit of a train wreck this week, and God, Colorado was, and that last game in Milwaukee, I still feel things would have gone completely different if we win that last game in Milwaukee and are 3.5 out heading into Colorado. But if the Braves are headed in the wrong direction and are going to be sellers at the trade deadline, then Grilli's gone anyway. Mm-hmm. In some way, I mean, just to be really about, these guys are pieces and blah, blah, it really doesn't matter. It's not going to matter in the long run to the Braves because he was going to be gone. Hey, it sounds sort of unemotional, but I think in the long run, this is not going to have that big an effect on the 2015 season.
Yeah, maybe not, but who knows what you get from a guy that's closing at that level.
Yeah, well, in that regard, sure. The long term, no doubt.
That's
what prospect
question.
We were going to get.
Yeah, because his trade value certainly plummeted, right? I think what we would have gotten back for him in terms of the offseason certainly hurts a lot more than what he would have contributed on the field in the situation you're talking about.
Yeah, no doubt. And no one's trading for him now. I mean, maybe you check in on him, in December and January and see how his rehab's going and see if the Braves are interested in trading him then. But I mean, he is just sort of a worthless asset at this point.
Yeah.
So Curtis, where do you think people are going to slot in now that Grilli is gone for the year?
Well, they came and said that Johnson was the closer. Obviously, that makes the most sense. I'll be curious to see how long he's with the team. He's also pitched pretty well and is a pass closer himself. And with obviously Grilli out of the mix, we could have potentially moved both those guys and potentially to two different teams as closer material. And now we just are left with one guy. But they've talked also about moving Vizcaino back there to really see if he can reach the potential and the promise that he's held for so long. And be the guy that can be at the end of the bullpen. So, and that might happen sooner rather than later if they trade Johnson at the end of the month. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's what it is now. Vizcaino, who has looked pretty good since he's been brought back up after his suspension. So, yeah, that seems like those are the two guys now. The setup guy will be Vizcaino, and the closer will be Johnson.
And of the retooling that they did of the bullpen, meaning Vizcaino, the other David Carpenter, and Folty, Vizcaino has looked pretty amazing, actually. I mean, he's 4 appearances, 3 innings, no runs, 2 hits, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts. He's looked quite good. And David Carpenter, except for today, with his 2 home runs, has looked pretty good too. So, Carpenter may work himself into, being the 7th inning guy or slot. Vizcaino moves to 9, then maybe Carpenter becomes the 7th inning guy, and Avilan, as much as you can trust him, becomes the 8th inning guy. McKirahan is on his way back as well on the 20th. But right, the already thin bullpen just got thinner. Hammy, you see it any other way?
No, I mean, yeah, that's totally the way. I think it's John. I think you're going to see a revolving door of a lot of people. I think that there's not going to be anyone who goes for a long stretch. Actually, this is an opportunity for the Braves to really see what they have across the system, across their organization. So I think Johnson is gone, and we see a lot of appearances by different guys as a closer.
Well, and I think that these next couple of weeks are big audition periods, particularly for Vizcaino, so that they'll feel more comfortable trading Johnson. But I think Johnson's gone regardless.
Well, and you go back to the Milwaukee game, and you wonder how many more times those guys can come back from their bullpen letting them down, particularly late. I know that you mentioned, and I totally agree, that the team that certainly I think that outcomes would have been different. Match that with them going into Colorado and Colorado starting that game and having Wood pitch, 2/3 of an inning or whatever. No, 2 pitches.
2 pitches.
And then, which they shouldn't have started that game, obviously. And so his start getting pushed back. So just that combination of things. But, yeah, I mean, you as a team, you just wonder how much longer these guys can just look at their one segment of their team really letting them down and it not really completely deflate them and demoralize them.
It really was a perfect storm of awfulness this week, starting with Avilan's homer. Then you have the Wood 2-pitch appearance. Then you've got Shelby being un-Shelby-like and giving up whatever he gave up, 5 runs. Then you got the Grilli injury. I mean, it was just one awful thing after another from Wednesday on.
Yeah.
And then the blowout today. I mean,
just getting shellacked today.
Shellacked. All right, guys, next up is fair or foul. We'll throw something out there. We agree with it fair or disagree with it foul. So, Hammy, Folty to the bullpen. Now, I know he got sent back to AAA, but fair or foul, did you like the move?
I think the Braves have to see what they have in Folty as a reliever at some point. The starting pitcher audition, he failed and did not get a call back. And I think it's okay to see exactly what kind of potential you have across your whole organization. Like I said, as you head into the buying and selling part of the season, I'm disappointed that it ended up like it did for Folty, but I like the move. I bet he's someone who's shopped around as well. Do you guys think that Folty is a moves up to the top of the trade list in terms of prospects?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, he's he's a bit of a singular kind of starting pitcher in that he can, throw 96 late into a game. You don't get that many of those guys. But clearly in the Whistler, Banuelos, Williams, Perez hierarchy, I mean, he's at the bottom.
He's first to go.
Right. I would think, although it just depends on if they think long term, they've got to keep him longer and see what they have in him. I mean, the issues really with Folty seem to be a little bit more maturity wise. I saw something this week from Bowman that I did not see, that a day or two before they sent him down to AAA the first time, not today, obviously, he was doing some side session in Fenway and he got frustrated and walked off the field. And I think that was probably the last straw in not only is this guy not performing on the field, but he's got maturity issues. Let's send him down to AAA. So do you wait for that stuff to work itself out? Because, the guy's got electric stuff.
But it's not creating. Yeah, he has electric stuff that is not doing anything.
No. He's not harnessed it yet. I get that. And his secondary pitches, he's got some work to do. But I just don't know if you give up on that guy yet.
Yeah.
Well, when we talk about value, I mean, I would think his upside is obviously tremendous, but I would think that right now his value is probably relatively low.
You'd be selling low.
Yeah.
I mean, given his two auditions, his starting pitching audition was not great, and his closer or his bullpen audition was not really good either. I mean, he was pretty awful.
Well, and if you're reading, which you're picking this petulant stuff up too. So, yeah, I mean, I like the move to the bullpen. Personally, I think he can. I think his future is as a closer because it seems a lot based off of fastball. He just needs to develop one more pitch as opposed to maybe two more pitches to be a starter. He needs to kind of get some movement on his fastball. But I think that's and then he only has to go one inning. It seems like the longer he gets into these games, and that might still be a matter of maturity and mixing his pitches up some, but it seems like he is rather limited in the scope. And it seems like even when we got him, that the talk was that he was a bullpen guy and not a starting pitcher long term.
But the Braves keep talking. They want to keep working him as a starting pitcher, and maybe that's, maybe some of that is PR to have interest in him as a starter and, for trade value. I don't know.
Or to keep him not from crying and throwing things too.
Yeah, well, that is true. Yeah, Folty, during his bullpen experiment, 15 batters faced, 2 2/3 innings, 6 hits, 2 earned. His slash line against was 429, 467, 643. That's not so good.
Not so good.
No. So
don't call us, we'll call you.
Exactly. So I'm all for it. I mean, it was a very important stretch of the leading up to the trade deadline. So throw everything at the bullpen, which is the weakest point. I think it was great that they brought him. It made good sense. It just didn't quite work out. All right, so Curtis, there's 12 games coming up. The next 12 games are against the Cubs, the Dodgers, the Cardinals, and the Orioles. So fair or foul, they win more than they lose.
Not even close. I think the best they're getting out of this is 4. 4-8. That's my projection, which should be basically one game a series. I can see that.
Yeah, that's right. That's 1 and 2. All right, Hammy?
Yeah, this is going to be a tough stretch, especially after the Colorado series, after today. So I say 3 and 9. I bet they'll get swept in one of those series. So foul.
All right, so hear me out. They get Freddie back.
15 wins.
They get Williams Perez back.
17 wins.
McCurahan comes back before the end of the month.
22.
I just think I just see that they're going to make it interesting down the stretch so that it's a tougher decision for the front office about being buyers or sellers. I say they go 8 and 4.
But there's no precedent for that, Stevie. Like, we've not done well against the top teams this year. And Chicago is a good team. Teams above 500 were horrible against. I mean, this is going to be a brutal stretch. I do not see it happening. I mean, I know we all have
I hear
our
you.
favorites, Homer.
Why do you even do a show about the Braves, Hamilton?
I want them to. I will cheer harder through every inning of every game. It's just this is this is daunting. This is such a coming off of this Colorado series where you really feel like we're on the ground. This series is just going to kick us while we're down, and just basically these next 12 games will be the death knell in this season.
But
Yeah, I mean, no doubt. Look, if they go out and lose even the first game against Chicago, or certainly the first two, the next 10 or 11 probably go real bad. I mean, they will have to have a quick start.
you don't think they'll jump up and down that they made history today? That they'll be excited about that?
And
What was the history?
was that?
That the Rockies have never swept a 4-game series from the Braves in the history of their franchise?
They're going to put up a flag about
Yeah.
a pennant. Yeah.
That's something you can build on as a Braves team, you know?
Yeah.
We made history. Yes.
All right, so Hammy, Shelby Miller is our one All-Star selection. So
Yeah.
fair or foul, just in general, you care a lot about Braves in the All-Star game.
If I'm watching the game, I obviously am happiest when our guys are doing well. But I don't generally have a lot of interest in the All-Star game. This year particular, I don't have any interest in the All-Star game. So I would say foul this year. I'm more interested in the home run derby actually this year. But I don't think there's a lot of upside for Shelby. I mean, it's nice for him. I'm happy for him that he gets to put that on his resume. But he either is just a faceless pitcher who gives up no runs in one inning because he'll only get one inning, or he's the guy who loses the game because he gives up 3 runs. I think there's not a lot of upside to this other than being in the game, which is great. So I'm happy for him, but I'm not going to watch because I don't think there's really a lot of great things he can do.
All right, Curtis, how about you?
I love the Braves being in the game, but with this game, especially with it being a starting pitcher, is he even going to pitch?
Right, he could not.
You never
pitch.
know. You never know.
Absolutely.
So, I do care. I'm fair about the Braves playing in the game, but I'm like Ham. I probably will not watch one pitch of this All-Star game unless my elder son is really fired up about it, which he is usually very fired up about things like the All-Star game. So we might watch a very little bit of it, but I am not really engaged in it at all.
Yeah, I mean, if we had a position player, the year where Freddie gets voted in as the starting first baseman, or Andrelton finally, or one of our pitchers was starting the game, I would be all over it. But yeah, the pitcher maybe coming out in the 7th, possibly, or Freddie is the backup first baseman, maybe getting one at bat kind of stuff. It doesn't make me watch it more or less. I was thinking, guys, when was the last time there was a Brave in the home run derby? Has there ever been a Brave in the home run derby? Was like Galarraga in the home run derby?
That's what I was
Galarraga? Okay.
Fred
Amazing
McGriff?
that they didn't.
Was that post McGriff?
I think
was there a home?
was in one.
Yeah.
That they didn't have Evan Gaddis in one, just to have him in one.
Yeah,
And
I
still
didn't
don't.
think about that. How was he not in this year?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
No idea.
God, he would destroy it there too.
So, guys, any concerns about where Shelby Miller is right now?
I'm not really concerned. He has terrible numbers in Colorado. Which you can say about a lot of starting pitchers. Really, his numbers have been quite good. He had that one bad start against the Nats, right, where he gave up those 5 runs.
Bad start against the Nats. 4 runs, only 1 earned against Boston. 4 runs against Arizona. I mean, those are out of the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 starts. There's half of them he's given up at least 3 or 4, 5 runs.
Well, now I'm worried about him.
You're welcome.
I'm not worried about him. I think that's who he is. I think that he's still young, still working stuff out. I think I'm not worried about it.
Yeah, I'm really not either.
Okay.
All right, guys. So
Hater.
Why
do you do a show?
So, guys, we've reached the All-Star break. So let's talk some predictions and awards for the first half. So, Hammy, where in the standings will the Braves be on July 31st at the trade deadline?
So that's 14 games from now. I think they're going to be 10 games out.
Okay, Curtis.
And in third, right ahead of the Marlins still.
All right.
I'm going 11 games out.
All right, so the Braves are 7 back in the standings.
15
I have them right. I have them going 8-4 over the next 12 of 14 before this is the trade deadline. I say they're going to be 4 back. 4 back. And
so
the
that's
NL
mean
East
that
will be theirs.
the Nats will go 5-8 over that same stretch.
Then the Nats don't. The Nats have the Dodgers. The Nats have the Pirates. They have the Mets and the Marlins. So it's no cakewalk for the Nats.
Until the end.
Just saying. All right, Curtis, who is your MVP for the first half?
It's Cameron Maben. And maybe just because there was really not much expected, honestly. There's kind of throw in that trade. But he's got career highs in average OBP and slugging. He has hit 8 home runs, which his career high is 9, and obviously that's over the course of a season, and this is over the course of half a season. He's played good defense. He's kind of solidified the top of the lineup. And, for a guy that and for a position that we've kind of struggled to have some consistency with in center field, and you thought that, the guy was going to be platooning with Eric Young Jr. when he came over here, for him to have done what he's done, and me lobbying for them keeping him around and not trading him, he is my MVP.
Hammy, how about you?
Mine is Freddie. Not a very surprising pick, but he continues to be the anchor of the team, even when he's been out for on the 15-day DL. He still has the most homers by far. And I know we're not a home running hitting team this year. He's the highest slugging percentage, obviously, highest OPS. So he's the man. He's what drives the offense, and is really the reason, because of our pitching has been so up and down and so inconsistent, that we've relied on the offense, and he's been the anchor of the offense.
Yeah, Kurt, I'm going to go with Maben as well. He and Freddie, according to Baseball Reference, are tied at 2.1 for offensive WAR. But you add in the fact that he's such a surprise. You knew you were going to get that from Freddie.
Or hope,
but to give us, or hope, yeah. But to give us an everyday center fielder, to give us a top of the lineup guy, to give us a team leader in steals with 15, he's brought a lot to this team, particularly that we didn't expect. So I'm going with Maben.
Yeah, and there's no doubt that the Freddie injury is killing the Braves right now.
Yeah.
I mean, this Rocky series, it's like this bad taste in my mouth that won't go away. I mean, to go into Colorado and produce no offense, is kind of depressing. And not only in Colorado, but against the worst pitching staff in baseball in Colorado.
Yeah.
And you can't help but think or believe what kind of impact some of these games, and all of these games might have changed if we've got Freddie in the middle of the lineup.
Absolutely. All right, Curtis, how about the least valuable player through the first half?
I know I'm probably going to take some heat for this one, but I'm going with Tehran. This is obviously the guy that we thought was going to be our number one starter, and he has been far from that, in my opinion. Obviously, we know about his great his great home stats, but to be a number one guy, to be the best starting pitcher on your team, you really need to also produce when you have to pitch on the road. That sometimes pops up over the course of a season. His ERA over 4.5. He's given up 109 hits and 108 innings pitched. He's given up 16 home runs, which is tied for 7th worst in Major League Baseball. So his numbers they're down dramatically from last year, which goes without saying. So it's just tough to kind of watch him struggle and have had so much hope going with him for this season, and really what we needed for him to provide us for this season, and it's just really been kind of sporadic. So he's my LVP so far.
Hammy, how about you?
So for me, it was comforting that it wasn't just easy to pick someone, especially from the offense. There wasn't someone who jumped out. You could make cases for people. And even the starting pitching, Curtis, I agree with you, but Tehran has also done some good, right? So there hasn't been a true
Right. There's no Ugla or BJ to point at.
There's not. It's not. In years past, we would have been hard to pick just one, right? So I think for me, it's Trevor Cahill. And I know he's gone, but for the money that we spent for him, and he was really the worst pitcher. You take out Donnie Veal, which we all have, and all wish we could, and he's by far the worst pitcher. His ERA is the highest. You look at his hits per nine, his FIP. I mean, he's just some of the advanced stats. He's horrible. And for the money we paid for him, I think he really did the absolute least value to the team.
Yeah, I can't argue with that one, Ham. I'm going to go Chris Johnson, however, sticking with the offense. Lowest batting average of anyone with at least 40 games played at 252. And since his return from the DL, he's played in 28 games, and his batting average is at 235. His on base is 257. And on top of it, like, to be so awful, he's keeping the prospects that the team should get in a trade for him. He's anchoring himself to this team on top of everything else. So I'm going Chris Johnson.
Plus he's got it.
He's not running out of the box.
Oh, I know.
And he's got a big contract. I mean, there's just really nothing appealing about him right now.
And we could honestly still point at Ugla because he's the highest paid guy on the team.
Yes,
True.
he truly is providing the least value to the team for what he's getting paid.
All right, Ham, what's your biggest surprise so far this year?
Well, I really bought into all the preseason talk about how bad the offense was going to be and the projections that it would be the worst in the National League, the worst in the majors, fighting with the Phillies, blah, blah, blah. But I'm really happily surprised at how well the offense has done and how much fight there is in the offense, and has been much better than expected. And then some great seasons by Przinsky, and even Freeman was having a good season, and Maben was having a good season. There's been some really nice spots, and I know Peterson has cooled off, but he was exciting to watch offensively. So I think there's been great character to the offense. I think they've definitely overperformed, and that's been the biggest surprise.
Curtis, how about you?
I'm going with the rookie starting pitching beyond Folty, who we've talked about earlier, but really Whistler, Williams Perez, and Manny Banuelos, really amazing, transformative, and so exciting to think about the future that we have with these guys. To combine their 8-1 with a 2.24 ERA, which is just insane, and they are winning on the road as well. 91 innings pitched combined, 27 earned runs combined. So just amazing stuff from three young guys who have shown tons of poise, and really it is exciting to think about a rotation that contains these guys going forward for our team.
Yeah, and something that got lost in how awful the series in Colorado was that Whistler had a good appearance. Whistler had a good start in Colorado.
Yeah, gave up two runs in the first inning and then nothing after that.
Exactly. And can you imagine how many games back the team would be now without Whistler, Perez, and Banuelos? We were still struggling with Cahill and guy. I can't remember his name. Who's the veteran lefty that we let go?
Oh, God, that's so funny. Nothing.
Yeah, I can't think of him.
Yeah, wow. Even less valuable than Cahill, obviously.
Exactly. So I'm going to go Tehran's down year. I mean, like you said, Kurt, he was going to be the ace, and he was getting better each year, and the numbers are. I mean, his FIP last year was 349. It's 464 this year, so more than a point higher. His WHIP was 1.08 last year. It's 1.36 this year. I mean, it has been a bit of a train wreck for Tehran.
Stoltz.
Thank you. Yes, Eric Stoltz.
Yeah, and they've basically got 15 wins amongst their rookie pitchers, which is tied for best in Major League Baseball.
How about that? All right, guys, next up is Shot in the Dark, brought to you by Front Row Seats, where you can get the best deals on tickets online, Braves, concerts, anything you're looking for. So visit frontrowseatsllc.com and use discount code ABT, and you won't be charged any service fees. Again, that's frontrowseatsllc.com. All right, so guys, we'll start with our listener pick for Shot in the Dark, and it was from Twitter follower BJ Barton, and it was that the Braves hitters would have more home runs than strikeouts in Coors Field this weekend. Maybe the darkest shot in the dark we've ever had. And it was close. 32 strikeouts to 3 homers.
Oh, there was a 3. There was a 3.
Exactly.
Oh my God, that's so terrible.
All right, guys, before we get to our predictions for this week, let's check in on how we did last week. So, Kurt, you predicted Maben would hit over 325 with a homer and 2 doubles. He hit 240, didn't play today. Hit 240, 1 homer, 0 doubles.
Yeesh.
Ham, you predicted that Tehran would go 7, give up 2 or less, and get the win. He went 7, gave up 3, did not get the win. I predicted that Tehran would go 8 and give up 1 earned. So I will reluctantly give it to Hammy. Hey! All right, so Ham and I are tied for 1. Tied at 1 for the month. All right, Curtis, this week, what do you got?
A true shot in the dark, an all-star game shot in the dark. Jason Kipnis, all-star MVP.
Wow. Is there a line? Is there a money line on that?
I don't know. I'm a Kipnis fan. I'm digging deep here.
All right, Hammy, what do you got?
This is the time that we've all been waiting for. Nick Markakis will hit his first home run of the season against the Cubs.
It's, a little crazy it didn't happen in Colorado, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right,
you would think Baltimore, right? You would think Baltimore would be the next thing on the calendar where he might feel like he could get going again.
Right, that's a good call. Yeah,
but it's not this week. It's not this week. Nope. I think he's got it. I think he's due.
Just do it again next week.
I will. So, I'll keep doing it till he hits one.
The break, his neck's gonna it's gonna be the tipping point of his exercise and strength building over the All-Star break.
I think it is. It'll give him a break. I think it'll give him a break and maybe just come down. I mean, I think maybe he's overthinking. I don't know, but I think something's going to happen. Steve.
All right. Mine is that Freddie Freeman will return during the Chicago series and hit 2 homers in his first game back.
All of a sudden, I'm liking Jason Kipnis in this deal.
All right, everyone, please check out our Shot in the Dark sponsor, Front Row Seats, where you can get the best deals on tickets online. Remember, there's a Braves homestand coming up, or concerts, anything else going on this summer. Visit frontrowseatsllc.com and use discount code ABT to not be charged any service fees. It's frontrowseatsllc.com. All right, guys, let's take a look at our win-loss predictions that we made last week and look ahead to this week's 3 games. So, for this 5-2 week, Ham, you went. I'm sorry, for this 2-5.
Wait, which podcast is this?
Yeah. Ham, you went 4-3. Kurt and I were both 5-2. It was
so once again, I lose, but I win by not being the biggest loser.
Oh, that's not right. Yeah. All right, so 3 games this week at home because of the All-Star break. It's against the Cubs. There were no pitching matchups out on any of the websites, although I thought I heard on the radio. Well, I read that Tehran gets the opener, probably because it's at home, and guaranteeing him a home start. And I don't know who else. I think Williams Perez may start and Shelby Miller. That's what I thought I heard on the radio today. So, with all that information to go on, Ham, what do you predict this weekend?
I was going to say 1-2, but I'm going to say 2-1. I've changed my mind. 2-1.
Yeah, man, because they're going 8-4 over the next 12, Hammy.
Yeah, these will be 2 of their wins, of their 3 wins.
All right, Curtis, how about you?
I was going to go 1-2, and I'm still going 1-2.
I'm actually going 0-4.
Yes.
All right, I'm going 2-1 as well. I just think they come out strong out of the gate.
Well, there's going to be Freddie's 2-homer game.
Right, there's Freddie's 2-homer game.
Mark
so
that one off.
That one. Exactly.
Yeah, and then they just got to win 1 more.
There's going to be the thrill of Jason Kipnis winning the MVP in the All-Star game, which is clearly going to propel them to 2 wins out of this series.
It's all going to come together. And then the Markakis will obviously carry them. His homer will win.
Right. Hopefully he hits his homer in a game that's not the 2-run, the 2-homer Freddie game. They need to spread it out.
That's true.
Right.
It really is amazing.
I'm going 4-0. I'm changing my prediction.
I have to say, I looked while we since you mentioned that, and this is totally going back on something we already talked about. Whistler, Perez, Banuelos, I said we're 8-1 with a 2.24. Stoltz and Cahill, 1-8 with a 6.69.
Yeah, and the anti.
That's pretty great. That is pretty great. You got to tweet that out, Kurt.
Holy God.
All right, guys, that is the show. Everyone, please make sure you have us in your RSS feeds or subscriptions on iTunes or Stitcher so that you don't miss any of our weekly shows. And as always, check us out at AtlantaBaseballTalk.com for past shows, to check out our blogs, and to post in our comments section. And be sure to follow us on Twitter at ATL Baseball Talk and to like us on Facebook. Thanks again for listening, everyone, and go Braves!
Thanks for listening to Atlanta Baseball Talk, your weekly podcast for all things Atlanta Braves. To find new shows, to post in our forum, or to send a comment, please visit us at AtlantaBaseballTalk.com.